Hello, and welcome to Donuts and Traffic, the show where we eat donuts and talk about traffic. I'm Doug Dahl. We're still in the midst of physical distancing, so I don't have a guest today. Instead, you've got me talking about speed. And we're going on a field trip. You've probably seen the headlines. Traffic volume is down, vehicle speeds are up, and speeding crashes are almost a pandemic in themselves. You might start to think that most everybody on the road is speeding. But is that really true? I wanted to find out, so I borrowed a speed measuring device, also known as radar gun, and I headed out to where I thought might be a good location for speeding drivers. Take a look. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have a donut. I'm in the 2300 block of Birch Bay Linden Road. It's flat, straight, and wide, and there are no stop signs for a couple miles in either direction. Kind of ideal if you're somebody who wants to speed. This road also has a history of serious injury and fatal crashes, so at least you can't accuse me of cherry-picking the road to get the results I want. The speed limit on this road is 50 miles an hour. For this non-scientific study, I'm going to point the radar gun at the next 100 cars and see what we get. Well, I kind of lost track of my count, but I'm pretty sure I got at least 100 vehicles, so let's go take a look at the data. You're right to be concerned about speeding drivers. Just take a look at these results. I tracked 158 vehicles, and nearly all of them were clustered within a few miles an hour of the speed limit. Yes, driving 1 mile an hour over the speed limit is, by the letter of the law, a violation. But realistically, if you're traveling within a few miles an hour of the speed limit, either faster or slower, you're not the problem. To quote a local police officer, "We're not looking to nail you for 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. We're talking about the goofballs that are driving like, NASCAR." The dangerous speeders, and let's define that as drivers doing 10 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, made up, in my experiment, less than 2% of the drivers. Even drivers going more than 5 miles an hour over the speed limit made up less than 8% of the total traffic. But speeding is a factor in 31% of fatal crashes in Washington. In reality, most of us, over 90% in my brief observation, are driving at a safe speed and reducing our risk. And by the way, don't just take my experiment as the final word. Traffic engineers do these kind of studies all the time, and they come up with pretty similar results. Speeding isn't a bad idea because it's against the law. It's against the law because it's a bad idea. Two big reasons it's a bad idea: reaction time and physics. We'll start with reaction time. 150 years ago, the top speed for humans was however fast you could get your horse to run. Our eyes and our brains evolved to capture data at much slower speeds than our current modes of travel. The faster you drive, the less time you have between when you notice a hazard and when you hit it. And we're not very good at noticing things at high speed. Once you do notice a hazard, there's the time it takes to stop to avoid it. Braking distance increases with speed, obviously, but it's not a direct correlation. As speed increases, braking distance increases even more. High speeds work against you in trying to avoid a crash. For the visual learners out there, take a look at this chart. Stopping distance is a combination of your reaction time and how long it takes your car to come to a stop once you apply the brakes. Here we're figuring a 3/4 second reaction time, which is typical of an attentive driver. If your eyes are in your lap looking at your phone, or your brain is engaged in a conversation with someone miles away, your reaction time will be worse, obviously. At 70 miles per hour, your braking distance is nearly double the braking distance at 50 miles per hour. And overall stopping distance nearly triples when you double your speed. And then there's physics. Even if speeding didn't increase the frequency of crashes, and it does, speed on impact determines your outcome. Like speed and braking distance, speed and impact force are not linear. For the nerds out there, here's the equation. Force equals 1/2 the mass times the velocity squared divided by distance. If you don't care about the math, here's all you need to know to understand the equation. the relationship between speed and impact force is exponential. For example, a collision at 60 miles per hour has 4 times the impact force of a collision at 30 miles per hour. There are limits as to how much impact force a human can sustain, and high-speed crashes easily surpass those limits. You might also be surprised at where that point is. The data show that by the time you approach 50 miles per hour, your risk of a driver fatality in a front-end collision is beyond 50-50. At 70 miles per hour, it's pretty much a guarantee. So what about the few people who are out there speeding? I've heard rumors that because of COVID-19, police aren't making traffic stops anymore. That didn't sound right to me, so I asked them myself. Here's what they said.
My name is Deputy Lonnie Bauman. I am with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office. I'm a motorcycle instructor for the Sheriff's Office and assigned to the traffic unit. You know, there's the belief out there that everyone is speeding nowadays, and we found that that's just not the case. And in fact, we found that most drivers in our county are driving safely, and they're driving within the speed limit and they're following the traffic laws. But unfortunately, there are a few people that choose to drive dangerously, and we found that those are the people that are causing the collisions here in Whatcom County. So what we do as traffic deputies and officers and deputies, we're out there stopping those dangerous drivers because we want to make sure that we reduce the number of collisions that happen in our county and keep our roadways safe. So if you're one of those drivers that follow the traffic laws and obey the speed limit, thank you. But if you're one of those people that choose to drive dangerously, we'll be looking for you.
Hi folks, my name's Mike Scanlon. I'm the traffic sergeant with the Bellingham Police Department. The traffic division of the Bellingham Police Department has one major goal, and that is crash reduction. We do that through a variety of ways, one of which is through enforcement, and one of which is through education. Those things typically come from stops where we stop you for speeding, we stop you for having your cell phone in your hand, etc., etc. We can then either educate you as to why that's an unsafe behavior, or if we have people that either do it all the time or are doing so in a reckless manner, we will enforce, and enforcement is oftentimes another form of education. And we're not talking about 2 or 3 miles an hour over the speed limit. We're talking about the folks that are driving recklessly, that are driving very carelessly, and that putting you or your loved ones in danger. So if you are one of those folks that's driving dangerously, our educational tool for you will probably be a citation. So, fair warning.
To the 92% of you who drive at an appropriate speed, thank you. Whether you do it because you care, because it's the law, or even just because you want to get better gas mileage, your decision to drive at a safe speed protects you, it protects me, and it protects everybody else on the road. And that is worth another donut.
You can eat a donut, you can drive a car, but I wouldn't recommend doing both, not at the same time. So instead we'll just eat some donuts as we talk about driving cars and riding bikes and walking around and taking public transit and other traffic-related stuff. Donuts and traffic, it's donuts and traffic. Donuts and traffic, that's the name of the show. Donuts and traffic, donuts and traffic, donuts and traffic, that's the name, that's the name of the show.